So you're a camera gearhead and you've done pretty well out of crypto recently, so you've got a massive wad of cash burning a mini crater in your pocket. So what do? No, you don't start searching camera gear on eBay, as tempting as it may be. You head over to the Annual Leitz Photographica auction held at the Bristol Hotel in Vienna. Here you'll find mainly classic and super rare, sometimes even one-off Leica equipment. But it's not all Leica. You will find other exceptionally rare lenses and cameras from many other manufacturers. This is real kid in a candy shop stuff, if you've got the money. So I'm always moaning about how Micro Four Thirds needs lenses to be fast to help make up for that depth of field thing. So how about this? Get yourself a cheap Nikon F to MFT adapter and slap on one of the 10 Carl Zeiss Planner 0.7 50mm lenses that are in existence. And these are probably the most famous lenses ever made. Designed for NASA to use during the Apollo missions to shoot the far side of the moon, and famously bought by Stanley Kubrick to shoot the movie Barry Lyndon with its iconic scenes shot only using candlelight. Most people interested in photography know or have heard the story about these legendary lenses. These lenses only stop down as far as f8, so you may need some filters to help with that. Focuses as closely as 1 inch or roughly 25mm, and has a curious focusing mechanism requiring you to turn one way to focus at a distance and the other way to focus closely. Being a scientific instrument designed for NASA, an extremely difficult manufacturing process was used to create this glass, and Kubrick's had to overcome many challenges to adapt the lenses to his cameras, or even just to get the shots in focus. He would place a CCTV camera at 90 degrees to his main camera and subject, and then put lines in front of that camera to see if his actors had moved forwards or backwards in relation to the 50mm planner, as the focal plane could be as shallow as 44mm. The guide price was 100 to 120,000 euros, but the final hammer fell at 180,000 euros. Bargain. If you don't fancy that but you still want a classic 50mm lens, then how about this beautiful 1953 Summicron 5cm f2, serial number 920001. Now, according to the auction house, recent research says that the serial numbers of the 5cm Summicrons start at 920000 and then they end at 17090000. But the 920000 was never issued, and the first ever production copy of this lens is 920001. This is the first copy, and it seems like someone has really treated it accordingly. It looks as good as it did when it was new, and it is a thing of beauty. I think if I bought this lens, I would need to hire somebody else to actually handle it for me, because I'd probably scuff it up really quickly. I just wouldn't be able to stop myself from using it. I would chuck it into my camera bag and off I'd go, and it'd just get mashed up. Estimated sale price for this one was 30 to 35,000 euros, but this one sold for 54,000 euros. Something that really caught my eye from previous auctions held here, and something that I would most definitely be adapting my Micro Four Thirds cameras to, is this Olympus Zuiko Auto T 250mm f2 ED-IF lens. This super fast telephoto lens was part of a trio of lenses from Olympus back in 1984, built to take on Canon and Nikon, who had a distinct advantage over them at the time. The other two lenses were the 180mm f2 and the 350mm f2.8. This lens featured a rotating retractable lens hood and rear slip-in filter size of 46mm, which was handy, but it did leave the huge front element without giving you the ability to give it a filter for protection. This unusual focal length of 250mm gives a 10-degree angle of view, and it was built with 12 elements in 9 groups, with 4 ED elements included. The IF in its name stands for internal focusing, and it gives a uniform performance maintained throughout its entire focusing range and across all apertures. I think this is a really beautiful lens. Items like this are the reason that I should stay away from auctions. Okay, I can see the comments now telling me that adapting these lenses to Micro Four Thirds cameras is just wrong. I should be adapting it to an Olympus film camera, that's what they will say. But you know what? I really don't agree with all of that. I love adapting legacy lenses to my cameras. But if you insist, then how about this flipping beautiful object? I really hope that the new owners of Olympus are going through their history and getting some ideas from it, because it's stunning. Some of the cameras are just so beautiful. This is the Olympus OM3 Ti, a very rare and improved version of the original OM3 with a titanium top and bottom plate, to make the camera stronger, and improved electronics designed to give you a better battery drain, as the original OM3 was known to be way too power hungry. I think it is such a beautiful camera with that titanium grey finish, but being Olympus, of course, these two are nowhere near as expensive as some of the other camera gear that I featured in this video. The OM3 Ti sold for about €1,100, while if you're lucky, you can get hold of a 250 f2 for between £2,500. So not much more than what you would pay for the modern equivalent of Olympus Pro lenses anyway. That would be a really nice comparison video. Out on the Leitz auction, then have no fear, there is another chance to grab a piece of camera history on October 9th, 2021 at the Wetzlar Camera Auctions held in Wetzlar, Germany, the home of Leica themselves. It's here that you'll find one of the 20 Canon EF 1200mm f5.6L USM lenses that were ever made, and it will be available to purchase. Produced between 1993 and 1997, this is officially the world's largest interchangeable SLR autofocus lens in terms of focal length and in terms of maximum aperture. f5.6 is really wide for such a long focal length. It is an absolute monster, and I'm not even sure that this video does it justice because there's not really any visual cues there to compare it with. I would love to hear that autofocus motor moving those massive lens elements around. The lens was only available on special order, and they could only produce 2 of them per year because of the time it would take to grow the fluorite crystals used in the lens. They reckon that only a few of them still exist today, and this is probably due to the fact that there are just no spares for them, and at least a couple of them would have been stripped down for parts. Apparently the few that do exist belong to organisations like National Geographic, Sports Illustrated, spy agencies around the world, and of course Canon itself. But just look at this thing. Despite it being so big, and unlike many of the other super zoom lenses that Canon produced, this one is actually quite beautiful with its integrated handles on the top and underneath. This lens has a built-in lens hood, has a close focusing distance of 14 meters and weighs 16.5 kilograms. There are 13 elements in 11 groups, and it has a 9-bladed aperture. The manufacturer's suggested retail price back in 1993 was $89,579. But of course, being such a rare item, since then prices have gone way up, with the most expensive copy selling recently for $180,000 or about £125,000. This one is in absolutely mint condition and is expected to break that record when it goes on sale later this year. It's a pretty sure thing. Things like this only ever really seem to appreciate in value. We can look through some of the older items sold at previous Wetzlar auctions. 2 years ago, that 5cm Summicron that I was talking about earlier sold here at the auction for €37,500. If you remember, the same lens sold at the Leitz auction for 54 grand. A very nice return in just 2 years for someone. It's a nice little game if you've got the money to get into it, but it's definitely not for me. I know I'd end up playing with the gear and I wouldn't make any money at all. Anyway, that's it from me for today. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you did, I'd really appreciate you hitting a like button, hitting the subscribe button, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Peace.